On Wednesday, March 11th, 2026, President Donald Trump told the press that the United States could take apart Iran's entire electrical capacity within 1 hour. He said it would take them 25 years to rebuild it. That is not just a warning. That is a threat to permanently cripple a nation of 90 million people. Within 12 hours, Iran threatened to shut down every power grid in the Middle East within 30 minutes and use the blackout as cover to hunt down American and Israeli soldiers. Separate statements followed promising to set every oil and gas facility in the Gulf on fire and warning that the Persian Gulf would be in danger, all within the same 24 hours, all directed at the United States and its allies. Over the next few minutes, I'm going to show you exactly what Iran is threatening to hit, why the evidence says they can do it, and why the world's attempt to flood the market with emergency oil reserves is already failing. See, Trump described Iran as being, in his words, absolutely decimated. No navy, no air force, no anti-aircraft systems, no systems of control. He said the Strait of Hormuz was in great shape and that America had knocked out all of Iran's boats. U.S. Central Command's numbers as of March 12th support part of that. Roughly 6,000 targets struck inside Iran since the war began on February 28th. Over 90 Iranian vessels damaged or destroyed, including more than 60 warships and over 30 mine-laying boats. Those are real numbers. But on the exact same day, Trump said Iran had nothing left. The IRGC launched what it called its most intense and heaviest wave of operations since the fighting started. Drones over Dubai, missiles towards Saudi oil fields, tankers burning near the Iraqi port of Basra, 6 power transmission lines in Kuwait knocked offline, not from a direct hit, from the debris of intercepted drones falling on the cables. Most people think this war is winding down because Trump keeps saying it is. In reality, the operational tempo from Iran's side has been increasing, not decreasing. The IRGC is still launching, still targeting, still pressuring shipping in the Strait. As of March 13th, traffic is near a standstill, but not completely zero. Reuters has reported that only a few tankers have managed to transit. Turkey said one Turkish-owned ship was allowed through after contact with Tehran. So the waterway is being choked, not emptied. That tells you everything. This blockade is not random, it is strategic. Before we continue, thanks a lot for tuning in. Your support is what keeps this show going, and I appreciate you watching. As always, drop your thoughts in the comments below. Who do you think has the upper edge in the war? Will there be a ceasefire anytime soon? And please, make sure to subscribe and like the video so I can keep bringing you these critical updates. Let's get back to it. Iran's threats did not stop at the power grid. The Khatam al-Anbiya Central Headquarters, Iran's main military command structure, warned that even the slightest strike on Iran's oil terminals, gas fields, or ports would be met with a crushing and destructive response. Their statement went further. All oil and gas infrastructure in the region, in which the United States and its Western allies have a vested interest, will be set on fire and destroyed. Consider what that covers. That threat matters because Gulf infrastructure has already been hit or disrupted. Reuters has reported an attack on Bahrain's Bapco refinery, fires in Fujairah caused by intercepted drone debris, attacks near Kuwait airport, and renewed disruption around Dubai airport. So the threat is credible, but it is safer not to claim every named facility has already been struck unless each one is sourced individually. Iran is not describing a hypothetical. It is describing the next level of something already underway. Then came the red line nobody expected. Iran's parliament speaker, Mohammad Bagher Kalibaf, posted that any aggression against Iranian island territory would shatter all restraint. His exact words: "We will abandon all restraint and make the Persian Gulf run with the blood of invaders." The islands he is talking about are Abu Musa, Greater Tunb, and Lesser Tunb, 3 small but strategically critical positions near the mouth of the Strait of Hormuz. Iran has controlled them since 1971. The UAE disputes that control. And then there is Karg Island, through which up to 90% of Iran's crude oil exports normally flow. Axios reported that U.S. officials have discussed seizing Karg. Israel's opposition leader, Yair Lapid, publicly called for destroying the energy infrastructure on that island. Kalibaf's message is clear: touch Iranian territory, and every remaining limit on this war disappears. Stay with me, because what happened next changes the calculus entirely. On March 12th, Iran's new supreme leader, Mojtaba Khamenei, issued his first statement since being installed 4 days earlier. But he did not appear on camera. He did not record audio. A news anchor on Iranian state television read a written message while a single photograph was displayed. Nearly 2 weeks into a war, and no one outside Iran's inner circle has seen or heard the man who now holds ultimate authority over the country's military and nuclear apparatus. Here's why that matters. Mojtaba Khamenei is the son of Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, who was killed in the opening Israeli-American strikes on February 28th. His mother died in the same attack. Multiple family members were reported killed in the opening strikes, and Iranian officials later said Mujtaba himself was lightly wounded. Israel has explicitly stated it will target any successor. So the new supreme leader is issuing orders from hiding, possibly from a bunker, possibly incapacitated, and the written format is a security measure to prevent his location from being identified. His statement contained no path to peace. 0. The Strait of Hormuz must remain closed as a tool to pressure the enemy. All American bases in the region must shut down immediately, or they will be attacked. Strikes on Gulf neighbors hosting U.S. forces will continue. He vowed revenge for all Iranian martyrs, calling it a file that will remain open. He referenced children killed in an airstrike on the Shajare school, and then he said something that should concern every analyst watching this conflict. He mentioned that studies have been conducted regarding the opening of other fronts in which the enemy has little experience and is highly vulnerable. New fronts against an enemy with little experience. That is not the language of surrender. That is the language of expansion, and it aligns with what is already happening on the water. U.S. military intelligence has reported that Iran began planting naval mines in the Strait of Hormuz. The U.S. destroyed 16 mine-laying vessels, but the damage is already done to the shipping market. The London Joint War Committee has expanded its high-risk maritime zone to include waters around Oman. Insurance premiums for tankers operating anywhere near the Gulf have skyrocketed. Most shipping companies have simply rerouted around the southern tip of Africa, adding weeks to delivery times and billions in cost. The strait is not just physically blocked, it is economically poisoned. Multiple analysts noted the statement offered no diplomatic off-ramp, or no conditions for negotiation, no signal that Tehran would accept a ceasefire under any terms Washington has offered. Arash Azizi, one of the most respected Iran analysts working today, told CNN the message gives very little hope. Rob Geist-Pinfold at King's College London called it more of the same, not the rhetorical pivot the Trump administration was hoping for. Now, let us talk about what this means for the people actually living in the Gulf. Iran has already demonstrated it can strike virtually anything in the region. In the UAE alone, 174 ballistic missiles were fired. 689 drones were launched. 44 of those drones hit their targets. Strikes landed near the Burj Al Arab. Dubai International Airport was hit twice. Jebel Ali Port, one of the busiest commercial ports on Earth, was struck. An Amazon Web Services data center caught fire. The French naval base Camp de la Paix at Zayed Port was damaged. 3 migrant workers from Pakistan, Nepal, and Bangladesh were killed. Bahrain, home to the U.S. Fifth Fleet, was hit. An early reporting placed at least one strike at or near a U.S. Fifth Fleet service facility in Manama. Kuwait intercepted 97 ballistic missiles and 283 drones, and its international airport was struck. 6 American service members were killed at a tactical operations center near Shuaiba Port in the opening days of the war. Dozens more sustained shrapnel wounds, brain trauma, and burns. In Qatar, explosions echoed across Doha after missiles targeted Al Udeid Air Base, the biggest American military installation in the region. Saudi Arabia shot down drones heading for the Sheba oil field and intercepted others approaching the diplomatic quarter in Riyadh. The UN Security Council passed a resolution demanding Iran stop attacking its neighbors. Iran ignored it completely. Strikes continued within hours of the vote. So when Larahani says the region goes dark, he is not making an empty boast. He is describing a coordinated version of what Iran has been doing piecemeal for 12 days. Now consider what a regional blackout actually means in the Gulf during March, when daytime temperatures already push toward 40 degrees Celsius. Saudi Arabia gets roughly 70% of its drinking water from desalination plants. Those plants run on electricity. No grid, no water. The UAE, Qatar, Bahrain, Kuwait, all of them depend on powered desalination for survival in the desert climate. Hospitals go offline, air traffic control goes dark, military communications break down, stock exchanges freeze. Millions of foreign workers, the backbone of every Gulf economy, are stranded without functioning infrastructure. Most people think the oil price is the main consequence of this war. In reality, the drinking water supply for tens of millions of people is wired directly into the same grid that Iran is now threatening to destroy. That is the part nobody is discussing loudly enough. We will come back to why the international response is failing, but first, the oil numbers. Brent crude sat at approximately $73 a barrel before the war began. By March 10th, it touched $126. It fell back to roughly $88 after Trump said the war was almost over, and Saudi Aramco rerouted some crude through its pipeline to the Red Sea port of Yanbu, bypassing the strait. Then Khamenei's statement hit. Brent shot back above $100. That is a 38% increase since February 28th. The International Energy Agency responded with the single largest emergency reserve release in its 52-year history, 400 million barrels. The IEEA was created in 1974 specifically because of the Arab oil embargo during the Yom Kippur War. It has never in half a century faced a disruption this severe. The previous record release was 182 million barrels after Russia invaded Ukraine in 2022. This one is more than double that. America's share is 172 million barrels from the Strategic Petroleum Reserve. Japan committed 80 million beginning next week. Britain pledged 13.5 million. Germany and Austria are contributing as well. On paper, it sounds massive, but the arithmetic does not hold. 20 million barrels of oil and products flow through the Strait of Hormuz every single day under normal conditions. The strait has been effectively closed for 12 days. The cumulative shortfall already exceeds 200 million barrels, more than half the entire reserve release, and the gap widens every 24 hours. ING strategists published the clearest assessment. The only way to see oil prices trade lower on a sustained basis is by getting oil flowing through the Strait of Hormuz. Failing to do so means the market highs are still ahead of us. A Raymond James analyst added that it could take 60 to 90 days before the reserve oil meaningfully reaches refineries. One market analyst called the entire IEA operation a water pistol, not a bazooka. Meanwhile, the IRGC told the world directly, "You will not be able to artificially lower the price of oil. Expect oil at $200 per barrel." They said the price of oil depends on regional security, and you are the main source of insecurity in the region. American consumers are already absorbing the damage. By March 11th, the U.S. national average gasoline price had reached $3.58 a gallon, up nearly 60 cents since the war began on February 28th. Those are the largest weekly and monthly spikes since Russia invaded Ukraine in early 2022. And Trump posted on Truth Social that the United States benefits from high oil prices because America is the world's largest producer. That statement is technically accurate, but it is a remarkable thing to say while American families watch pump prices climb in real time. The administration floated the idea of having the U.S. Treasury purchase oil futures to suppress prices. That proposal tells you more about how worried Washington actually is than any press conference. Now here's the part that pulls everything together. Iran has built a structure of mutual destruction across the Gulf. If the U.S. hits Iran's power grid, Larijani is committed to blacking out the region. If the U.S. hits Iran's own oil infrastructure, the IRGC has committed to burning every Western-aligned energy facility from Oman to Kuwait. If the U.S. or Israel move against Iranian islands, Kalibaf has committed to unrestricted warfare in the Persian Gulf. And the new supreme leader has ordered the strait sealed indefinitely while his military explores new fronts where America is exposed. The problem is not that Iran is making threats. The problem is that Iran is already executing a lower intensity version of every single one. Dubai's airport hit, Bahrain's refinery shut down, Kuwait's power lines severed, tankers ablaze near Basra, the strait locked, American soldiers killed at bases in Kuwait and across the region, 7 dead, 8 critically wounded, 3.2 million Iranians displaced, over 1,300 killed in Iran, 687 dead in Lebanon, 12 in Israel. This is not a conflict approaching escalation. This is a conflict where the only question is how much further each side is willing to go. And as of March 13th, 2026, neither side has defined what an acceptable end looks like. No ceasefire is on the table. Iranian President Masoud Pezeshkian listed conditions: recognition of Iran's rights, reparations, and guarantees against future aggression. Washington has not acknowledged those terms. Khamenei's statement contained no willingness to negotiate. Trump says the war is won, but has not stopped fighting it. The reserve release is huge on paper, but analysts still say it cannot solve the problem unless Hormuz traffic resumes. The IEA says global supply is expected to drop by about 8 million barrels per day in March, and recovery could still take weeks or months. The strait remains shut, oil sits above $100, and every single day that passes without a diplomatic resolution, the probability of someone pulling the trigger on the power grid threat moves from theoretical to operational. Share this with everyone you know who needs to understand what is actually happening. 6,000 targets struck in Iran, 90 vessels destroyed, 400 million barrels released from reserves, $100 a barrel and climbing, a supreme leader issuing orders from a location nobody can verify, 3 separate Iranian officials promising regional blackout. No ceasefire, no negotiations, no off-ramp. And the reserves are running out faster than anyone in Washington is willing to say publicly. Thanks a lot for watching. I really appreciate your support. Join the discussion in the comments below. Let me know your thoughts. Who do you think is winning the war? Do you think the war is getting out of hand? Let me know. And please subscribe and like the video if you want to stay updated. And click the video on the screen to see another. I'll see you soon.